a viral Instagram post is making a startling claim. President Donald Trump has allegedly ordered over 100 million hectares of forest to be chopped down, equivalent to 280 million acres, which is nearly 3 times the size of California. This post has been shared more than 100,000 times as of Friday afternoon, with similar claims appearing on other social media platforms, asserting that Trump has directed logging companies to cut down 280 million acres of trees in national forests and protected public lands. But is this claim accurate? Here's what you need to know. On March 1, President Trump quietly signed an executive order titled Immediate Expansion of American Timber Production. In this order, he criticized what he described as heavy-handed federal policies that have forced the United States to rely on imported lumber, thereby exporting jobs and prosperity and compromising self-reliance. Trump also claimed that these policies have contributed to wildfire disasters. Trump stated that the United States possesses an abundance of timber resources, more than adequate to meet domestic needs, and emphasized the importance of reversing these policies to increase domestic timber production for national and economic security. The order outlined Trump's plan to achieve this. He directed the United States Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management to devise ways to facilitate increased timber production and expedite the approval process for forestry projects. Trump instructed the Departments of Agriculture and the Interior to exempt timber thinning and timber salvage from the National Environmental Policy Act, meaning that environmental assessments or impact statements would no longer be required before approving these activities. Furthermore, Trump instructed these agencies to use the emergency regulations of the Endangered Species Act to the fullest extent permissible under existing law. On the same day, he launched an investigation into whether imports of these products threaten national security. Typically, the Endangered Species Act protects about 400 species living in America's national forests from actions that would destroy their habitats. However, the government can bypass these protections in certain situations, such as acts of God, disasters, casualties, or national defense or security emergencies. In theory, Trump could declare a national security emergency over imported Canadian lumber once his investigation concludes, and then use Emergency Endangered Species Act exemptions to assist the logging industry in cutting down more trees on public land. Approximately a quarter of the lumber used in the U.S. comes from Canada. Trump's executive order targeted timber from federal lands managed by the Bureau of Land Management and the United States Forest Service. The United States Forest Service manages 193 million acres of forest and woodlands, while the Bureau of Land Management manages 58 million acres. This totals 251 million acres, which is not quite the 280 million figure circulating on social media, but still a significant amount. However, whether all 251 million acres are actually in danger of being chopped down or clear-cut is another question. Even in the most extreme scenario, the U.S. logging industry lacks the sawmills or workforce needed to ramp up and clear forests nearly 3 times the size of California within 4 years. Trump's recent actions indicate his desire to reduce, streamline, or circumvent environmental regulations to increase domestic timber production and reduce imported timber from countries like Canada. Trump's new Forest Service chief is a former timber industry lobbyist, signaling that more trees will be cut down. How many more remains uncertain. Ultimately, Trump is unlikely to flatten hundreds of millions of acres during his second term. However, environmentalists warn that expanding logging while reducing oversight will damage fragile ecosystems, threaten old-growth forests, increase pollution, and even exacerbate wildfires. Chad Hansen, a wildfire scientist at the John Muir Project, stated that this executive order is the most blatant attempt in American history by a president to hand over federal public lands to the logging industry. He explained that Trump's approach, logging in remote forests and telling communities it will stop fires, has been responsible for numerous towns being destroyed by fires in recent years and hundreds of lives lost.